You had a nerd off today. Kevin Clark, right, sat in.
Yep.
I'm all about the nerd off, but I didn't stay long enough to find out what the nerd off entailed. What did you bring to the table in your nerd off?
All right. Well, Adam, thank you as always for having me. And here's the thing. So let's talk about this for a second. So on your show specifically, you and I have talked about your old days a long time ago in the state of New York.
Yep.
We've talked about random old school North Carolina basketball players and how I feel like I could still maybe beat you at naming random with basketball. We've talked about Victoria and I share the love for the boy bands of the late 90s, early 2000s, and NSYNC and Backstreet Boys. And today it is time now on the Adam Gold Show to reveal how much of a sports nerd I am. Because the two things that really caught everybody's attention today were that I will randomly, out of nowhere, just decide to Google coaching staffs of all teams historically.
Really?
Like, for example, I will literally be like, wait, were Dean Smith, Bill Guthridge, and Roy Williams all on the same staff?
Yeah.
But was, like, I know that, but, like, wait, was Eddie Fogler on that staff too?
Yep.
And then I'll just start looking at that. That's number one. And number two was, and it still is, that I write down every draft pick in the NFL draft, all 7 rounds, every year, handwritten.
Why?
All right, Adam, the floor is yours. Go ahead.
Wait. Why do you do that? Why do you write it down?
You can't find them on the internet or anything like that. I don't know. I did it as a kid. I went to the draft every year at the theater at Madison Square Garden. Not Madison Square Garden, the theater at Madison Square Garden. So people understand this. Madison Square Garden, that's how you know this, but for the audience in North Carolina, Madison Square Garden has a theater attached to it that holds, like, let's call it 1,000 to 3,000 people, and that's where they used to hold the NFL draft. And now they have the combine in a football stadium, and the draft will be at Lambeau this year, and it is going to be enormous. Yeah. But back in the day, it was not this big. So I would go every year, and I'd write down all the picks, pre-cell phone, pre-internet, so I would know who was drafted, and I could keep track of it, and that is what I've done ever since.
And you made the trip from New England, down from Boston area to, right?
No, Westchester County.
Oh, okay. So how did you become how'd you become a Patriots fan living in suburbia of New York?
All right. Well, maybe this is sports nerd number 3. So I don't love the players as much as I love the management, the leadership, and the structure of organizations. I love the Patriots because of Belichick.
I appreciate that.
I love the Heat. Yeah. I love the Heat because of Riley and Spoelstra, and I obviously fell in love with Wade and Haslam and Butler and Shaq, etc. I love Tomlin. I was never a Roethlisberger guy. I'm not a Steelers fan, but I love Tomlin. Like, I love. That's what I love. So I fell in love with the Patriots and the way they operated. And I used to, growing up, I'm a front runner. I'm a loser. I used to root for the Giants growing up here in New York, where I grew up in Westchester County, New York, because I loved Parcells. And I always took a liking. And you know what it stems from? And I'm not kidding you. And it's odd that you asked this. I swear to God, it stems from Norman Dale, Gene Hackman's character, the late Gene Hackman at Hoosiers. That's because I loved Norman Dale, and I always appreciated the leadership because of that.
Evan Cohen, Unsportsmanlike on ESPN Radio at EVCO Radio. I'll give you because I could have competed with your nerd out, as you probably expected. Growing up in the New York area, right?
I would hope so.
We were big. The games were, a lot of people played Stratomatic. I didn't play Stratomatic as a kid. We played something called Status Pro, which, by the way, the Avalon Hill Company in Baltimore, I believe, still exists. And I always thought those games were better than Stratomatic, either way. So we played Status Pro baseball and Status Pro football and Status Pro basketball, and we kept stats, detailed stats, and I actually still have them in my garage from the 1986 season. We used the cards from the 86 season. The entire season, we played it out.
Wait a minute. Adam, hold on a second. I have to understand that.
Yeah.
You have stats, not from the 86 baseball season, Mets over the Red Sox.
No.
you have stats from you and your friends playing a video game?
No, not video game. A board game. A board game. It was not. I'm not a gamer. I don't do video games. We played board games. Stratomatic was about dice. Yeah.
Okay. I don't want to take over the show, but this to me, I'm a loser. Okay, I'm a sports nerd. I get it. Every interaction I've had with Victoria has been positive, and Victoria seems unbelievably likable to the masses, way cooler than you and I would be. Victoria, if you were able to speak, not to just take over the show, but how many years have you and Adam worked together?
Is this three? I mean,
yeah.
Off and on longer, but three solid.
Is this the low point of your opinion of him?
Oh, no, Adam.
No, it's been lower, Evan. I'm sure there's been lower.
You have stats from you versus your friends in a board game?
Well,
30 years later, 40 years later?
Only part of it is me versus my friends because I was already also in college and I moved out and I just finished the season on my own. So let's just move on. I played the last 70 games out of the season on my own. So,
let me ask one other question on this to you, Adam.
Sure.
If you said to those friends that you played with, hey, by the way, you guys know I still have the stats.
Yeah.
Is that one of those moments that they would be like, holy bleep, we're coming over right now. That's the greatest thing ever?
Yes.
Or are your friends saying to you, you're the biggest loser of all time?
No, they would be like, that's cool. Who led the league in hitting? They would be asking me questions. Yeah.
You got good friends then.
Yeah, well, no, we were all the same. That's why it made me feel some type of way when you went into the nerd off. Let me ask you an actual question about sports, Evan Cohen, because I do feel like we're living in a pretty wild time with regards to the NBA. Steph Curry does that last night. 56 points, and he doesn't replicate that as often as he used to, which is understandable because he's 36. LeBron James just had another 40-point game. And he is probably a top 10, 12 player in the league still at age 40. How do you process how great these players still are and how they still are the faces of this league 20 years after their arrival in the case of James?
Okay, I love that you asked this question. This was a topic that we discussed this morning, and it's been a topic for us all week. And Chris Canty, who was not out there this morning, but it fought me on this a little bit. So I don't understand why we as sports fans, and in this case basketball, we are on this search for what's next, and we're not just looking at what's in front of us, which also simultaneously could be next. Like, what did you see from Steph last night with his 56 and 12 three-pointers, as the Warriors have been excellent recently since they got Jimmy Butler?
Jeez.
What would you think would potentially make you believe that he's slowing down?
I mean, only because he can't do it. He can't do it night in and night out like he used to. But those games are still there.
Going to be in the playoffs? But they're going to be in the playoffs.
Yeah.
LeBron had 30-some-odd points last night. They just get Luka, which I'm still stunned about.
Yeah.
And I think that extended his career a little bit. So instead of worrying about is Anthony Edwards the next face of the league with Minnesota, is Wemby, who should be a face in the league, the next face of the league, and unfortunately he's got the blood clot with the Spurs. Why don't we just do, and Kevin Clark this morning brought this up, and I think it's a good point, why don't we just do what we have done in the NFL, which is just simply embrace the actual faces of the league until they're not there anymore, instead of searching for the next ones who, by this rate, the people you think are going to be the faces now are not going to be when LeBron and Steph are done, because LeBron and Steph are not done anytime soon.
The next face of the NBA after LeBron and Steph are gone might still be in like grammar school at this point, based on.
You know what, Adam? Adam, I'm going to go one step further because you just triggered another thought. You are in the great state of North Carolina,
yes,
which is arguably the best college basketball state in the country.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure everyone listening is saying, well, it's not arguable. It is. Great. Awesome. And I am a UNC football fan, as you guys know now, with Coach Belichick up there. So let's talk about the state of North Carolina college basketball. In the face of the league, what's next? I would say between the two of them, there were probably 20 years where people asked the question, who's going to replace Dean Smith? Who's going to replace Coach K? And both those guys probably coached a decade after the first question of who's going to replace them was asked. And I understand it's different from coach to player, but you know what? Instead of worrying about who's replacing Coach K or who's replacing Dean Smith, just root them on as they continue to win. I mean, Coach K won that title, the 5th title, with Brian Zuback at center and all those guys. Like, he won that probably a decade after people were trying to hire Tommy Amaker to be his replacement. And I don't even know that John Shire was out of college at that point who actually replaced him. My years could be wrong, but you get what I'm saying on this, right? It's just, we got to stop. Embrace Steph Curry and LeBron James while they're still here.
Here's the thing.
I'm playing basketball.
Here's the thing. Shire won the 4th K title in 2010. Shire was the point guard. The 5th one was all those freshmen and a guy like Quinn Cook. And at that point, people were like, I don't know that people were looking for the next, but Brad Stevens' name was already out there, and he was going to be the next coach for both schools. He was going to be the guy who actually coached North Carolina and Duke at the same time. Evan Cohen from Unsportsmanlike on ESPN Radio. Just a couple of more minutes here before we have to say goodbye. But I have an answer to your question as to why we do it. And I think part of it is the way we consume media today, right? We have to have something has to be the best. We have to rank everything. And that is, for better or worse, that's just the way, unfortunately, we frame things. But I've said this for a long time, that, a sport like the NBA, and I've been saying it for like a decade, could not have been luckier to have a guy like LeBron, who there's never been a whiff of scandal around, as its face, right? The best player in the sport for more than a decade, but for a decade was like either the airtightness around his personal life was otherworldly, or he is simply just a good human being and great at basketball and the work ethic and all of that. And so, guys like LeBron, like for some reason we just can't like let them be great and embrace it. We have to rank everything. So we get into the Jordan versus LeBron, or the Brady versus the Brady versus Montana thing. We just have to compare. That's just the way we're wired. It kind of stinks, but I don't know. Maybe it also highlights the greatness of these guys.
What you're saying makes sense, and I do want to double down on what you're saying about LeBron in terms of the off-court stuff. The man is a billionaire. The man is on the surface, I don't know what's real and not real. I'm not claiming he's not real. I'm saying he's a great family man. He clearly cares about his children. I mean, I think that's obvious. He gets knocked for caring about his children too much, which I don't know if there's a such thing.
He got his kid a job.
Right, and I'm certainly not going to judge someone else's parenting. What I will say is this. Nothing you said was wrong, but I have to ask you a question.
Sure.
From when LeBron started in the league till now, he's been the face of the league for, let's call it, the last 20 years.
Yeah.
Do people like the masses? Do they like the NBA more or less than they did when he started?
Oh, I don't know. I think it's probably the same.
I think it's less.
I'm not sure they liked the league better when Jordan was the star. I think they liked Jordan.
Come on.
I think they liked Jordan.
Oh, well, that's okay. That's fair. I jumped in too soon. You're right about that. I mean, Michael is the greatest face of the sport in the history of sport.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, I shouldn't say that. What Tiger's done for golf, what Serena and Venus have done for tennis is the greatest. But, and it's funny you bring this up, because I'll just tell you behind the scenes, I've said to our producers, I said, I'm not ready yet for a topic, but I need to do some homework on it. And they're like, what are you talking about? And I said, I have a topic in mind that I want to ask a question, but I need to do more homework. on whether or not the LeBron James era has been good or bad for basketball. Not whether LeBron has been good or bad, not whether he's a good or bad person, not whether he's a good or bad player, but has the LeBron James era of basketball been good or bad for the NBA?
I think it's probably been very good for the NBA. I don't know that the game is more popular. The only sport, and we have to go, but the only sport that is more popular today than it was 20 years ago is the National Football League. Every other sport, every measure.
You don't think college football is?
Well, college football, yeah. Football in general is more popular today than any other sport, and we can spend all day long figuring out why, but it's all the other sports have declining, in some ways measurable declining popularity. But I don't think the NBA. I thought the NBA was more about Jordan then. Now it's about LeBron and other stars, and I think the game. I don't know. I think the game is more fun today, personally, for me. Evan Cohen at Evco Radio. Love catching up. I never know what we're going to talk about, and I appreciate you doing that.
That's the best. Neither do I, and I love every minute of it, Adam. Thank you for having me on.
All right, man. We'll talk to you soon. That's Evan Cohen here on The Adam Gold Show.